Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 147 of my Guild Wars 2 Let's Play series, where today I want to dive into Dragon's Stand. But first I got to this mail where it is apparently my character's birthday, where let's go ahead, type /age, because I haven't done this in a while, and we can see how long I played this character and how long I played all of the other characters on my account, and for how many days, where it is this character's 3rd birthday. And I might not have picked this up yet. I think I did on my Guardian at some point, but we can get a celebratory die pack, some teleports to friends, an experience scroll that's basically useless, and some birthday boosters that we could go ahead and pop one of. And let's go ahead and enter into the final map of Heart of Thorns, which we've already been to. And we can see that we automatically unlock all of the waypoints in the map, where there are 11 waypoints, and there are 2 at the beginning, where this map is split into 3 lanes, and we can kind of see these lanes here with how the waypoints are set up, where this is a map that is entirely centered around the idea of a meta event, where we see lots of giant meta events in Guild Wars 2 and the Heart of Thorns expansion in particular, and we can see all the ones that we've done throughout this series thus far, but this one is above and beyond the biggest one because the entire map is basically focused around the idea of this being a meta event. We're back in Heart of Thorns days. You could do this pretty much multiple times a day, every single day when it was current content, and now it's a little bit more spotty, which I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get a super deep, in-depth look into the meta specifically, which we can check in LFG, where it's currently the middle of the week for me, and it's right before reset, 4 minutes before reset, and there's currently not anybody doing anything. So I might have to return in the future and kind of like just check out the meta a little bit, and we can just watch a little bit of footage towards the latter end of this video, including a cool cinematic at the end. But we can explore the map, where we do start at the pack base camp in the northeastern corner, and then we have in the southwestern corner is the primary objective, where we will be fighting the Mouth of Mordremoth, kind of similar to the Mouth of Zaitan that we fought during the personal story, and we'll see that once we get to some footage of that. But we also have the 3 lanes, as I mentioned, where the entire map was split into 3 groups that will each march down the 3 lanes, and at the end of each lane, once all 3 groups get to the end, there is a big boss that everyone has to fight together at their own respective location and bring it down together, and then all 3 lanes converge for one final fight against the Mouth of Mordremoth, where this is definitely a very cool event, and maybe to some extent it feels a little bit old because it's been around for such a long time, and I've done it so many times throughout my time playing Guild Wars 2, and compared to like some other meta events, it can definitely feel dated for some people, but it's still a really fun experience, where we do have an idea that is incredibly present in this map, which is a little bit of like a philosophical idea, I suppose, to some extent, with the structure of Guild Wars 2, where so much stuff has been added to Guild Wars 2 over the years, and there's like so much power creep and whatnot, where when this was current content way back in the day when Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns first released, it was definitely difficult content, and it took a lot of effort from a lot of people in order to complete this content in the first place. Where, for an example, we have this area down here, the Blighted Bog, where there is a mastery that we need in order to survive off in that far corner, and then we can get to, is there a bouncy mushroom over here? Actually, I'm going back into the Blighted area, which might be bad. The mastery is needed in order to survive through this area, and the mastery is specifically designed to help you out in this area. But there are masteries that have been added to the game over the years that just makes everything in this meta event a tiny bit easier, and with everything combined, the meta event is just much easier than it used to be way back in the day, which makes it a little bit of a less of an epic experience for many people. And then with all of that, we have on top of that the existence of power creep, where characters and players are just stronger today than they were back during Heart of Thorns, which just makes everything much easier when things aren't balanced to the modern day, where we see stuff like raids in the modern day Guild Wars 2 expansions that are definitely incredibly challenging and are tuned around how the game is to this day, but older content is definitely a little bit more challenging, or less challenging. So I got distracted because those vines formed a heart. And speaking of a heart, we have the Heart of Thorns that we can see. Yes, the Heart of Thorns expansion is named after something specifically, where we can see in this area of the world is going to be where Mordremoth is located at the Heart of Thorns, which is something we'll explore more in the future. But the final boss of the Mouth of Mordremoth is definitely back in the day an incredibly epic and decently challenging fight, and in the modern day version of Guild Wars 2, I think I am actually going to die here because I don't have the mastery. In the modern day version of Guild Wars 2, the fight is incredibly easy and there's not really much effort you have to put into it at all. But you still do need like 15 people because you need like 5 in each lane in order to progress through the map, and then they have to do everything together. Well, let's go around this area. And my intention is mostly just to explore everything here, and just like with Tango Depths and Orc Basin, we will have to return in the future in order to get some of the map completion objectives, like the ones we were just looking at, because we do need some masteries in the future. Let's explore down this area. I'm probably going to die many times, and then I'm going to have to waypoint and return. Or actually, let's go up here. I can see a strong box located up here, and there's also a point of interest where we have the strong box from the Pride of Lion's Arch. Let's go ahead and open this and we'll get a mastery point, which is good. And then every now and then I might just come in here and check the dragon stat LFG, and there is nobody. Then there is this point of interest, and I'm kind of blinking on this point of interest specifically. I think it might be through the central lane, so let's go all the way over here and check this out. Where something I've highlighted a little bit on my channel that some Guild Wars 2 veterans know a lot about is that there are 3 lanes in this map, but when it was being developed, there was the intention for there to be 4 lanes, which is incredibly interesting. Where we see some Nightmare Court stories and Heart of Thorns, as we experienced in Verdant Brink, but a little bit of a spoiler that's not really a spoiler because of what it is that we don't really see any more Nightmare Court stories outside of the little bits that we have experienced thus far, other than like some conjoining details that we'll learn about in the future. Where we have point of interest all the way over here. Maybe this is not how we get there, but there was going to be a 4th lane that really focuses on the Nightmare Court, allegedly. That's what a lot of people believe, because we are going to see once we start doing this meta event that there is a character by the name of Grand Duchess Chrysanthia who is potentially the new leader of the Nightmare Court, and people thought that maybe we would be interacting with her in the Nightmare Court in that lane, which would have been located over here, where we see there's no waypoints, but there's kind of like every map in Guild Wars 2 is a square, and like the map would potentially look like this as we explore everything, but in reality this entire area here doesn't exist, and once we explore every area we'll get a better look at that. Where I'm just now realizing this episode is a lot of like meta talk and like nostalgia talk as we explore a few cool things. But we have some Radonova storylines that go on around here as well, including into this area, which might only be able to be accessed during the meta event proper, but I think there's other entrances. Speaking of other entrances, I took the wrong turn because I don't want to go back down where I was earlier. I can go around this way. You can kind of see that this map feels similar to Tango Depths in some ways, and there are a lot of ley lines flowing through this area, kind of similar to the ley line hub in Dry Top. Let's grab this point of interest, and then let's go explore these Asuran ruins that we can see right over here, because there's a really fun little Easter egg / hidden area that exists in, I believe, this specific spot that we can go ahead and check out. But also just look at how incredibly cool this area in particular looks. I've always really loved this part of the map because we have like all of the oldest Surin tech, which just by itself looks really cool, but then it's like an ancient ruin as well, which looks really cool. But then it's also overgrown by all the jungle plants and whatnot, which looks really cool. And then it's also attacked by Mordremoth, which looks, again, really, really cool. Where we have this entire area here, and this actually might not be what I was specifically looking for, but it's still really cool to come in here. And there is a point of interest below us, and we can see like this central tower or pillar right here that just looks really, really cool once again, that I love a lot. Radonova and Remnants. So we got this point of interest. 38% complete. And then onto this bouncing mushroom to get back over here. And then we'll need this third one to get way back to the top. And then we can go find that Easter egg, which I think we have to jump up like a little cliff. There should be a bouncing mushroom like right outside maybe. What I'm thinking of, where there is one right here, and this might be it. So let's jump up onto here, and we can come into basically the same area that we were just at, but we just got the achievement for Zoom Viewer, but this isn't the specific spot we're supposed to be at for that achievement, I think. All right, let's come over here, drop down here, and where is it? Is it because it's nighttime right now? Let's check event timers. We are supposed to be seeing a really, really cool thing here, because if you take a look at Dragon's Stand on the roadmap, we are just west of Ratasum, which also Ratasum and Radanovus are very, very close to each other, which is very interesting. But Dragon's Stand located right here, and there's a fun little Easter egg that maybe we'll come back to during the day, because maybe that's the issue, is that we can see Ratasum off in the distance, which I don't see right now, which is unfortunate, but we did get a mastery point for that, which is really, really cool. So let's go ahead and head back out this direction, back into all of the Mordrem. So many enemies all around here that we can fight, and we can see with all the lanes that basically Mordrem will be pushing down the lanes to attack S, while we are pushing down the lanes to attack them. So we see so many of these Mordrem just walking along this way. Well, let's take a look at this vista, because for whatever reason this vista just really resonates with me, and it's one of my favorites in the entire game. I just love the shot down the lane with the ley line coming down, and then all of the floating rocks with all the pores and whatnot, which is really, really cool. And let's continue over this direction where we got to the third southern checkpoint. And there's some more areas around here, including this point of interest, and then there's going to be another one up above us. And then there's also a vista here. Let's just get on this bouncing mushroom, get off of the lane, and then get back on the lane, I suppose, where we have the vista up there that I think we can get to by jumping to here, and then we could glide over. And we get a nice shot of a blighting pod there, which we've seen a little bit of so far in Heart of Thorns, but at the end of each lane are these 3 blighting pods that are spawning 3 different Mordrem commanders, which we have seen some hints of throughout Heart of Thorns, and we saw one earlier where the Mordrem commanders are basically pushing down the lane, and you have to defeat them multiple times until they serve as the final boss of the lane, right before the 3 lanes converge to fight the Mouth of Mordremoth, which is very cool. But we have the entrance to the Blighting Tower, I believe it's called, right there, which we cannot enter because we have to do the meta to do that. Where when it comes to completing this map, there's actually quite a few map completion objectives that are locked behind the meta, where you have to progress through the meta and complete the meta in order to get map completion in this map, which is something that a lot of people don't like when it's done in Guild Wars 2, and I'm slightly indifferent. But for us to be able to complete this map, we are definitely going to have to spend some time doing the meta. But for some more exploration, we can come down into this area where we see a little chalk nest, is the technical term, where we got a point of interest over here, and this might be poisoned. It kind of feels like it might be poisoned. Where let's get this point of interest, and then let's try to get out of here ASAP. Okay, looks like we got in and out just in time, and that's the only map completion objective in there. Where I think each lane does have an area that's like poisonous, so we should definitely get Itso poison lore pretty soon. But so many Mordremoth right there. And then we need to get up there for a point of interest. I'm trying to remember if that's locked behind a meta event or not. Where we also have this area over here that we can go ahead and explore a little bit of. Got some cave screamers. And I believe this is mostly just connecting towards the central lane. But really quickly, let's jump on this, and this just takes us right here. Well, then let's glide into here, and I think there's an area right around here that does require us to have completed the meta in order to access. Let's get through this way. Tons of pocket raptors right here. You can see some saurians off in the distance, and we also have the central tower right here with some Mordremoth that just spawned right there. But we also got right around here, if we can avoid all of the Mordremoth, a vista that we can go ahead and look at. Very cool shot there. Let's take a look at our map really quickly. There's a couple points of interest. Also a hero challenge, which all 7 hero challenges I believe are locked behind the meta, but 3 of them that are hidden around here, I believe with modern day masteries you can get to them without doing the meta event. So kind of another example of what we talked about earlier, but we don't have the modern day masteries currently. And still no group in LFG. Where let's go maybe get the vista, or sorry, the point of interest that's down here. Which is past here, and then there's the tunnel underneath this that I just remembered exists. And then this area looks like maybe it would go to the one point of interest earlier. And I guess maybe we can get down here actually. There's a veteran mushroom defender. Shooting star, use stealth gliding to reach the Mordremoth vineyard. Let's just go ahead, sneak past through here. Maybe I was incorrect. I thought this area was blocked off, but it looks like we can just easily get up to here and commune with this place of power. Looks like there's like another entrance to the blighting tower there, which is curious. But we got to this hero challenge, which is cool. Maybe we can get the others as well. Where 3 of the hero challenges are located at the center of the blighting towers that require you to get into there to interact with them, and then 1 at the very final area that you have to destroy all 3 towers to get to. But let's get into here, and then I guess we can't do that. But let's get past these sharpshooters, and let's come back to this area because there's still this point of interest over here. And we have another example of how we can, oh geez, zigzag through Dragon Stand, where there are the 3 main lanes, and we are now up above one of the lanes here, taking a lot of damage. Maybe I should kill these 2. Actually, I don't think I've fought anything in this episode until this point. Less than 20 minutes in. where we have an area up there. Let's try going around this way, because I think we do have like a wyvern area that's located around here. We can cheat a little bit with our raptor maybe. Why not? I don't normally, but if you can get, maybe this is just a full invisible wall right here. But we do have this point of interest over this way. Take a look at this bridge. It's like really high up because the chasm goes down really deep, and then there's a ton of insta-death vines down there, which is kind of scary, and then sharpshooters everywhere. But let's go around this way where we just found another strong box. Just stumbled upon this from the Scorch Razor the Second, where we can get to this mastery point. And then where's the best way to get up here? Maybe up this ramp. I think there's also a bouncing mushroom around here. You can see a ton of ley lines, so ley line gliding definitely useful in this situation, as it is in many situations. So let's take this bouncing mushroom. This area looks kind of poison, but I think it's fine. And I think in Verdant Brink we saw the juvenile fire wyverns, and I believe this is the area you can go to find juvenile electric wyverns if you are a ranger, but maybe only during the meta event where we have wyvern nest and there's just a ton of sharpshooters that might kill me. Let's get down here. It looks like the wyverns do only spawn as a part of the meta. Here we can see all these ley lines right around here. But let's just explore off in this direction because we haven't even been over here yet, where we can go to the northern lane. Let's take a look at all of this fun stuff, where we can see some exalted ruins over there as my raptor dies. But let's go around here. And hopefully not die, where we can see a vista in this direction. There should be some other stuff as well. Another area where we can go towards the central lane. Let's ignore all of the Saurian, never mind. He's just gonna instantly attack me. Let's get this. Oh, Smoke Scale's gonna walk away so we can look at the vista. And now we've seen all three blighting pods, which are very, very cool to see. And as far as like the meta structure goes, we start at the base camp where there are some events that we can do to prep for the sieges, and then we have an escort, and then we fight like a mini boss basically, and then there's a couple of events to reinforce the team, 2 at each stop. And then after you reinforce the team, or time runs out, you have another escort to boss, to 2 events to reinforce, for 1 final escort to the gate. And when all of the gates are reached, we then have the bosses that we fight. And the boss fights are definitely very fun and interesting, and the final boss fight is definitely very, very epic. But as far as like the different events throughout the lanes go, they're fun and they're cool, but there's nothing really to speak home about, I think. Let's get into here, and then let's go back this way, where there's a point of interest you can see over there, but there's kind of like a small area right here I want to check out, because I think we have an event that happens in that direction, but then in this direction we can find some exalted ruins that maybe we can't explore currently. So let's run out this way, where we also can't explore around this way because we need to do an event for that. But there might be another entrance into these exalted ruins, where one of the hero challenges is located up above the ruins, and we have to go through the ruins to get to it. Let's get to this point of interest here, and then I see this cave right here, which might be what we're looking for. Let's drop in here. I think maybe that gate is actually the back entrance once the event's completed. Or maybe it's just decoration. But we have rooted copse here. And some Mordrem. We can take a look at this vista as well, which is cool. Very cool sight there. But we can continue further into this area where we have another strong box here that we can go ahead and open. Some Mordrem on our tail. Dragon Render. We're getting a good amount of mastery points, which is nice. We're currently at 35 available points to use. But then let's try to dodge the Mordrem and come around this way and through this. I thought there was a tunnel here. Where is the tunnel I'm looking for? Oh, here's the tunnel I'm looking for. You can see some oozes in here and more exalted ruins, but we have this point of interest and also an updraft. The inverse pit, where we can go ahead, glide all the way up here onto this bouncing mushroom. Wish that was a weird like black effect there. Let's drop down here. That's so interesting. It's visually kind of off. I don't really remember that. But it also like it's kind of a cool effect. But anyways, I thought this area was blocked off. I thought that updraft didn't exist. I guess it's been a while since I map completed in this map. But we can come to this area, which will then let us drop down onto this pylon that we can go ahead and commune with. And I think that's all of the map completion objectives in this area. Got the one hero challenge there. So let's go ahead, drop out of here, and leave this place. I guess I'll take a moment to double check. And I would presume that the map instance that I am in would be the one that is picked for anybody who is coming into this map to do the meta event. Head out this way, continue up the north lane, kind of reverse of how you would normally do it as you progress through here. Very cool sights and some more exalted ruins. Down here at the first checkpoint, we can go ahead and grab this point of interest. Or I guess it's the second checkpoint. Is this the third? Oh yeah, third one down there. And then over here we have another poisonous area that I don't think we're going to be able to explore much of. We're up here, it's pretty safe. Where there's an event that happens up here, and then there's an event that happens down around, not right here, I guess. What is this spot for? This is a very cool area. I think it's to the northeast a little bit, where there's an event that happens at the same time as the one here, where that area is poisoned and this area is not. So if you don't have the mastery, you gotta make the decision to do this event. And here we go. You can see a really cool sight here, and there's no map completion objectives, but some really cool looking mushrooms and some sawgill mushrooms. And let's go ahead and return here, where there's a point of interest at the first northern checkpoint, or the first base camp, whatever it is, that we can go ahead and grab. And then it's going to be daytime soon. We could go try looking at Radasum again, though I did get the achievement for it, so I don't think it really matters all that much. First northern checkpoint, got that. And we have a vista, one vista left located at the end, but then we also have this hero challenge over here that we can try to get. And then as far as points of interests go, it looks like there are 3 left for us to try to figure out how to get. So let's go for the map completion objectives that we can, and then I think everything else will be at the end of the meta event or throughout the meta event. So we'll have to wait for that. So let's go ahead and maybe try to figure these out. And then inevitably, maybe I'll just check on the wiki. Because the wiki knows all. But up here, we do have this strong box. And I have such like a interesting memory. Okay, if you look at the road here, it looks like it's coming from like the middle lane. So let's go over to the middle lane. And then let's try going over. And see if there's like some sort of path we can find in order to navigate through there, because I do have a memory of like having to go super high up and then having to like go around the side of a cliff to get towards that point of interest, and I thought it was like right here through the updrafts that are located here, but maybe my idea is right, but I was just like off the wrong direction. Where I see this spot right here that just caught my eye. Kind of see the meta happening visually over there, which is kind of strange. Or the base camp is being set up. But here we have this spot. Can we get up to here maybe? Maybe not. Maybe we're supposed to be going over to there. Is there anything up here for us? Maybe I'm supposed to glide to here. Looks kind of right. Prismatic Percher. Use gliding to reach new heights in the prismatic post pile. Interesting. So we just got a mastery point for getting to this point of interest. So I guess it was technically a hard point of interest to get to. Where we have to go around this way. But then after that, this hero challenge and the 2 more points of interest that I was also a little confused on how to get those. I think I remember the hero challenge, but it's another one of those that I thought was locked behind the meta event. Where I know for a fact after the meta event at the 3 hero challenges that we see earlier in the map, there's a big champion that spawns. And it looks like maybe this one is locked behind leyline gliding. So maybe we won't be able to do this one just yet, and we'll have to return in the future. So let's continue this way, because we have this point of interest all the way down here that we can go ahead and try to work out. Where it might be something similar to the point of interest that we just did a little bit earlier, where we have to go somewhere weird and then glide over to it in order to reach this objective. Because this one does say from above, correct? Where I see that bouncing mushroom back here. Let's check this out. See what area is up here. Just some chalk. And see, oh, there's a bouncing mushroom there. Maybe this point of interest is also locked behind leyline gliding, because I think maybe it looks like if we can jump into that ley line, we'll be able to get to it. And this leads back towards the center lane, which we actually do need to go to. But first, let's just continue here. Let's see somebody using a mountain, maybe they just got the point of interest that way. If we dip around here, this is an interesting location that doesn't seem to really have too much going on, but it's like a cool big, slightly hidden cave. Let's try jumping up here. And then the point of interest is just right there. The chalk zapper is shooting me. Maybe we can be out of combat. But it does look like we would jump into the ley line here to get over to this point of interest. Maybe we can just scrape it just... Oh, ley line glider. Hold on. This is weird. Glide along ley lines and dragon stand. But I didn't do that. Let's try this bouncy mushroom. Get into here. And this looks like maybe is actually how we can get to here. where we have ley line overlook. So we got that point of interest, which is good for us. Let's go ahead and dodge out this way. So kind of a tricky thing. That achievement is really interesting, that you just have to glide into the ley line to get the achievement, even if you don't have ley line gliding unlocked. The map closes in 1 hour, and I accidentally came back to this cool cave. There's a bouncy mushroom up this way, where the map is on a 2-hour cycle, and the map will reset, and it'll kill everybody who's in the map when it does reset, which is kind of cool. There's even a fun little cinematic that happens. As for this point of interest, I also see the meta happening a little bit over there. Let's try going up here. And then we can see that the point of interest is below us. Maybe it's just the camp. Maybe I didn't run into this camp. Third central checkpoint. It was just the camp. Nothing too special. So let's get out of here. And that it is now daytime. Before we look at some other stuff that we can do in Dragon's Stand, let's go ahead and get out towards Radasum and see if we can take a little bit of a peek at that. See if we can get over there in a fun way, because we have this mushroom right here that takes us up here, and then this will let us go back towards the prismatic perch, I believe. Is this point of interest? Yeah. Let's go ahead and glide here. Our raptor can't make this jump, but our glider can. Cool to see just a bunch of Mordremoth walking around all the time. This map is genuinely incredibly dangerous to be in. The raptor is really nice to just navigate around here because you can take so many hits. And I made my way back to base camp. I need to go further south. And then onto this bouncy mushroom. Go ahead and jump here. And then we can see Radasum located right there. It's interesting you can't see it at night, but during the day you can get a nice view of the Asuran capital city, a location that we explored 100 episodes ago, over 100 episodes ago for the first time. We can see it off in the distance, which I think is such an incredible detail, and I love it so much. But we can come into the Dragon's Stand achievements here in Heart of Thorns, and we have 2 more strong boxes that we can go for, and then a variety of achievements. And then we also have Mastery Insights, and there are none located in Dragon's Stand for us. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these strong boxes. So I'll go to the wiki and I'll search for the Legacy of Owl strong box, where this is in the Chalk Nest, so that's an immediate no for us. And then we have Unsolved Conundrum, which kind of sounds like maybe it's located right where we are right now, but it's actually located, oh, I kind of remember this strong box. It's located right around here, where we can go ahead and just mark it on our map maybe as being located right there. Let's come back to the Pact base camp. Let's go ahead and maneuver around that way. And I think this is one of the last strong boxes I needed when I was playing through Heart of Thorns for the first time way back in the day. Which honestly kind of worries me a tiny bit, because why is it the last one I needed? Maybe it's just a little tricky to get to and I just naturally got to it last. But maybe it's a little challenging. I remember there being kind of a dangerous enemy around here. And it's located, I think we want to go around this way, avoiding the Mordremoth, of course. And then we have this path here. There's some caustic, lots of caustic, and then right around here. Go ahead and just use this to pull everyone around. Might be, yeah, another one there. I see 2 more. They're kind of not running towards me. But we did get to the strong box. And it is definitely a little hidden, I suppose. But definitely not bad. Where the other strong box we need the poison mastery for. And then the other hero challenge we need leyline gliding for. And then all of the other map completion objectives we need to work on the meta events in order to get to them. Let's go ahead and return to Pack Base Camp and take another look at the achievements really quickly, because all the achievements in the Heart of Thorns maps are definitely very interesting to look at, and I think are definitely very, very cool. And I've completed many achievements on my main account, but most of them are just special editions that are just fun to try to challenge yourself with. But none of these achievements, I think, are particularly important for any content where we can fight some of the Mordremoth commanders. And then you can basically just participate in every single event. And there are a ton of mastery points that you can get here. Slay the Mouth of Mordremoth and Dragon Stand in under 20 minutes. It only takes a few minutes nowadays. Yeah, pretty much every achievement in this map, I think, is indeed related to an event beyond the ones we have done. And then Legacy of Owl Strongbox is the only one left. So at this point, I think we pretty much need to just wait to join a meta run through of Dragon Stand, and there's not currently anybody here. Whereas we do the meta event, we can get some crystalline ore that we can go ahead and bring to this Whisper's Keeper in order to buy a lot of special stuff, just like in every other map. But there's kind of a fun thing here where we have the 3 different currencies of the first 3 maps, and we have the 3 different orders in each of the first 3 maps, and then we have 3 different chests in the first 3 maps, where then here in Dragon Stand, where all 3 of the orders unite, we see that we need all of the currencies from the first 3 maps in order to get machetes to open noxious pods in Dragon Stand, to get special crystalline ore, which is used as a currency but is also a crafting material. And then with all those currencies as well, plus reclaimed metal plates that we can get from salvaging reclaimed weapons, which we can get through unidentified gear and just like playing through Heart of Thorns, we can go ahead and get some of these weapons. Let's take a look at the Greatsword, which looks decently cool. And then I think we can upgrade these in order to make an even better version, and I think there is an achievement for that. And then we can also get special laystone armor, which we can also get most of the armor through the meta event as well, I believe. But as for the meta event, I'm going to go ahead and try to hop into a run through of the meta, and I'll probably just do it at a random time of day when I see it up, and I'll go ahead and record some footage, and we can watch that footage, just random clips of it, now.
They always ask for our help, but where are the shinies? Those big flyers have some nice shinies in their nests. Shinies should be ours. Climbing up there isn't possible for us. Someone can carry them down for us?
Submit to Mordremoth!
I am everywhere!
rods are incredibly unstable, so be careful not to jostle them. Well done. That's no easy task, you know. These will make excellent weapons.
We can bolster our defenses.
I've heard that the wyverns around here can be pretty nasty, even to the Mordrem. I'm thinking we should slay some saurians to attract the wyverns. Pile up the saurian meat and it'll ring the dinner bell for those wyverns. Then, roasted Mordrem. I don't normally cook plants, but I'm willing to make a concession. Took you long enough. You fall asleep out there? We've done well so far, but it would help if we could capture that overlook and release the Exalted trap there. Impassable.
Adequately, indeed. Now that I've restored the power levels, we'll have to see what these armors can do. I don't imagine I'll be using them, but I suspect you can find a use for them. If you can read their scribblings, that is.
Objective secure. Now, just the Elder Dragon to go.
Those islands are condensed ley energy. Keep the Mouth of Mordremoth from absorbing all the ley energy. Spread out. Don't let it seize those islands.
Who dares defy my eternal will?
We hunt together. Our prey is exposed. Attack now!
The Mouth of Mordremoth is getting ready to tear apart that platform! Focus on the Mouth of Mordremoth! Break its resolve! Group 2, grab a mortar shell from the wrecked chopper. Catch a ride on an updraft and attack! The rest of you, clear out those Mordrem snipers! Commander, grab a mortar shell from that down chopper and get high enough to bomb the monster! Stun the creature, so your allies can bomb it from above! Stun the creature, so your allies can bomb it from above!
This world shall suffer for your insolence!
Now is our chance! Attack!
Stun the creature, so your allies can bomb it from above! Don't let the creature get away! Up the tree, quickly!
No need! It's dying! We got it!
Fight cannot be fought. No cannot be known.
But with all that, I am going to go ahead and call this episode good here. Where I really hope you all enjoyed watching this episode as we explored through Dragon's Stand, and I also hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Remember to drink some water and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time in the world of Tyria. Goodbye.